This one, we're talking about a family in Lehigh Acres where an alleged pact to take their own lives spiraled into this brutal planned attack that left 3 family members severely injured and the 2 parents that were involved facing major felony charges. So here's the situation. Deputies in the Lee County Sheriff's Office responded to a 911 call on November 3rd. And when they walked into the home, they found 59-year-old Barbara Bates, her husband's 64-year-old Neil Bates, and their adult son who has developmental disabilities. They were all bleeding, they were all severely injured, but they were all still alive. And the details of what Barbara told detectives were absolutely chilling. And according to the arrest reports, Barbara had told authorities that their family had been struggling with eviction, financial issues, and that the caregiving of their son had just become overwhelming. In fact, she said that they had recently received an eviction notice and she believed that their family was going to be homeless within a few days. She also claimed that her husband had lost their job and that just the overall responsibilities of caring for their son had just become overwhelming. And allegedly, she and Neil had been talking about taking their lives for months. Investigators say she described planning their last night watching a movie, giving her husband a nice dinner, telling her son that the next day would even be fun, and trying to reframe the whole thing as peaceful. And once everyone is home, they reportedly watched the horror movie The Long Walk, which Barbara told detectives was supposed to set the mood somehow. She also told officers she made steak as their final meal. And that's when Barbara allegedly took a kitchen knife, slit her husband's throat first, then her son's, then her own. The son later told police his mother came up to him and, quote, cut his neck without warning. The son told detectives that he had panicked and he no longer wanted to go through with this plan, but by then the attack had already happened. And according to the sheriff's office, Barbara waited roughly 40 minutes before calling 911. And when she did, she flat out told the dispatcher, quote, I slit their throats. Which I just want to take a moment here because when I was reading this, I feel like it's becoming more and more common in the stories that we're covering here that a family member is committing these well-intentioned acts of violence and then calling the authorities on themselves. So for me, it's just very shocking. And I'm just wondering, like, what is going on because we're seeing this more and more. In this case, thankfully, all 3 survived, but barely. Doctors told deputies that the son's injuries were life-threatening and required emergency surgery. Neil's wound was described as, quote, deep and forceful, while Barbara's appeared to be more superficial, which raised more and more questions about the intent behind this. And that's when investigators started digging into more of these conflicting stories. Barbara had said that the pact was mutual. Neil claimed that their son had suggested it. But regardless of who came up with the idea, detectives say all the evidence pointed to Barbara initiating this attack. And while Neil tried to say that his son had suggested it, due to his disability, police say he couldn't have meaningfully consented even if he tried to. Court documents make it clear that the son functions cognitively at a much younger level and would not have understood the consequences of a, quote, pact like this anyway. So now Barbara is facing 2 counts of attempted felony murder and 1 count of aggravated abuse of a disabled adult. And Neil is facing charges of aggravated abuse of a disabled adult and attempted criminal activity. And both have pled not guilty. What makes this case so heartbreaking to me is that the son was the one hurt most by this whole decision that his parents made, one that he couldn't fully even understand, let alone agree to.